Mickey was a curious boy of 8, always eager to explore the nooks and crannies of his old, creaky house. His parents had recently bought the Victorian-era home, charmed by its antique beauty and historical significance. Mickey, however, was more intrigued by the mysteries it seemed to hide. One rainy afternoon, with nothing better to do, Mickey decided to venture into the attic. He climbed the narrow, wooden stairs, each step creaking under his small feet. As he reached the top, he pushed open the heavy, cobweb-covered door and was met with a cloud of dust. Sunlight filtered through a tiny, grimy window, casting eerie shadows across the room filled with forgotten relics and dusty furniture. Mickey's eyes roamed around until they landed on an old, tattered cardboard box in the corner. The box was labeled "Toys" in faded, childlike handwriting. With a sense of excitement, he hurried over and opened it, revealing a treasure trove of old playthings. But one item caught his attention immediately, a worn-out teddy bear with button eyes and a patched-up body. The teddy bear was different from any toy Mickey had seen. Its fur was a dull gray, and it had a stitched-up mouth that seemed to form a crooked smile. There was something strangely captivating about it, something that made Mickey feel an odd mix of fascination and unease. "Hello, Mr. Bear," Mickey whispered, hugging the toy tightly. "I think I'll call you Benny." As soon as the name left his lips, a cold shiver ran down Mickey's spine. He brushed it off as a draft from the attic window and carried Benny downstairs to his room. That night, Mickey placed Benny on a chair beside his bed and drifted off to sleep. In the middle of the night, Mickey awoke to the sound of soft whispering. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and looked around. The room was dark, with only the moonlight streaming through the curtains. He could have sworn he heard someone talking. "Who's there?" Mickey called out, his voice trembling. There was no response, only silence. He glanced at Benny, sitting in the chair, its button eyes glinting in the dim light. Mickey's heart pounded in his chest as he pulled the covers over his head, trying to ignore the eerie feeling that had settled in the room. The next morning, Mickey's parents noticed he was unusually quiet at breakfast. "Everything okay, champ?" his dad asked, ruffling his hair. "Yeah, just tired," Mickey mumbled, not wanting to worry them. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Mickey would find Benny in different places around the house, even though he was sure he had left the bear in his room. Objects would go missing, only to reappear in odd locations. The whispering at night grew louder, and Mickey often felt like he was being watched. One evening, as Mickey was doing his homework, he heard a soft thud behind him. He turned around to see Benny lying on the floor, even though he had placed the bear on his bed. His heart skipped a beat as he picked Benny up and put him back. "Stay there, Benny," he said firmly, though he felt silly talking to a toy. That night, Mickey couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the whispering that seemed to come from all around him. Gathering his courage, he sat up and looked at Benny. "Benny, are you doing this?" he whispered. To his horror, the bear's button eyes seemed to glimmer, and the stitched-up mouth twitched ever so slightly. Mickey gasped and scrambled out of bed, backing away until he hit the wall. The whispering grew louder, filling the room with a cacophony of voices. "You can't get rid of me. The voices seemed to chant in unison. Mickey ran out of his room and down the hall to his parents' bedroom, tears streaming down his face. "Mom! Dad! There's something wrong with Benny," he cried. His parents woke up, startled, and tried to calm him down. "It's just a toy, Mickey," his mom said soothingly. "There's nothing to be afraid of." But Mickey knew better. The next day, he decided to get rid of Benny. He took the bear to the backyard and threw it into the trash can, hoping that would be the end of it. That night, Mickey slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. But his relief was short-lived. The following morning, Benny was back on the chair beside his bed, looking as sinister as ever. Terrified, Mickey decided to take more drastic measures. He borrowed his dad's lighter and snuck out to the backyard. He placed Benny on the ground and set the lighter to the bear's fur. As the flames engulfed Benny, a piercing scream echoed through the yard, and Mickey stumbled back, dropping the lighter. The fire quickly burned out, leaving only ashes behind. Mickey felt a strange mix of triumph and fear. He went back inside, hoping that Benny was finally gone for good. But that night, the whispering returned, louder and more insistent than ever. Mickey curled up in his bed, shaking with fear. He knew he couldn't face Benny alone. Desperate, he decided to investigate the bear's origins. The next day, Mickey went back to the attic and searched through the old boxes. He found a dusty photo album and began flipping through the pages. There, among the faded pictures, was a photo of a young boy holding Benny. The boy had a sad, haunted look in his eyes. Mickey showed the photo to his parents, who finally took his fears seriously. They did some research and discovered that the boy in the photo was named Thomas, and he had lived in the house many years ago. Thomas had died tragically in a fire, and Benny had been his only friend. Realizing that Benny's spirit was trapped in the bear, Mickey's parents contacted a local priest to perform an exorcism. That night, the priest arrived and conducted a ritual in Mickey's room, chanting prayers and sprinkling holy water. As the ritual progressed, the whispering grew louder, turning into anguished cries. Benny's eyes glowed with an eerie light, and the bear began to tremble. Mickey watched in horror as the bear's form twisted and contorted, the spirit inside fighting to hold on. Finally, with a final, ear-piercing scream, Benny burst into flames and disintegrated into ashes. The room fell silent, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Mickey felt a sense of peace wash over him, knowing that Benny's spirit was finally at rest. From that day on, the strange occurrences ceased, and Mickey was able to sleep soundly again. The old house no longer felt haunted, and the whispers were gone. Mickey had learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of old, forgotten things and the spirits that sometimes linger within them. He never ventured into the attic again, and he made sure to always treat his toys with respect, knowing that some friendships were better left in the past.